long before history acquired dates, dynasties, or written memory, there existed a vast alluvial plain shaped by water, silt, and time. To the casual eye, it might have seemed unremarkable. A low, flat land scorched by summer heat and lashed by unpredictable floods. Yet within this landscape, cradled between two restless rivers, humanity crossed an invisible threshold. It was here, in ancient Mesopotamia, that people first learned not merely to survive, but to organize, to record, to govern, and to imagine themselves as part of something larger than kin or tribe. Civilization, as it would later be understood, began its long ascent in this land between the rivers. The name Mesopotamia was given much later by the Greeks, but it captures an ancient truth. The Tigris and Euphrates rivers were not passive features of the environment. They were living forces that dictated the rhythms of life. They flooded without warning, shifted their courses, and alternated between generosity and destruction. Unlike the predictable Nile of Egypt, Mesopotamia's rivers demanded constant negotiation. Survival here required ingenuity, cooperation, and foresight. From this struggle emerged humanity's earliest experiments in collective problem-solving, experiments that would evolve into cities, laws, writing, and empires. The story of Mesopotamia is not merely a sequence of kingdoms and kings. It is the story of how humans learned to shape landscapes and, in doing so, reshaped themselves. When early settlers began diverting river water through canals, they did more than irrigate crops. They created surplus, and surplus changed everything. Food beyond immediate need allowed populations to grow, specialists to emerge, and labor to be divided. Farmers, priests, builders, scribes, merchants, and rulers gradually took distinct roles, each dependent on the others. Society became layered, structured, and increasingly complex. With complexity came memory. Oral tradition, once sufficient for small communities, could no longer contain the weight of contracts, inventories, prayers, and laws. In response, Mesopotamia produced one of humanity's most consequential inventions: writing. Pressed into soft clay with reed styluses, wedge-shaped symbols transformed fleeting speech into permanent record. Cuneiform did not merely record transactions, it preserved myths, codified laws, and allowed rulers to project authority across space and time. Through writing, the Mesopotamians learned to govern the absent and the future. This capacity for organization and abstraction explains why Mesopotamia is often called the cradle of civilization. It was not the only place where early societies emerged, but it was the first where urban life appeared on a large scale and endured across millennia. Cities like Uruk, Ur, and Lagash were not temporary settlements. They were enduring centers of religion, administration, trade, and culture. Their walls enclosed not just people, but ideas. Ideas about order, justice, divine authority, and human purpose. Yet Mesopotamian civilization was never static. Power shifted constantly between city-states and empires. The Sumerians laid the foundations, but others built upon them. The Akkadians transformed city-based authority into empire under Sargon of Akkad, demonstrating for the first time that conquest could bind diverse peoples under a single ruler. The Babylonians elevated law into an instrument of state ideology, with Hammurabi's code asserting that justice itself flowed from royal and divine authority. The Assyrians perfected the machinery of empire, wielding military power, fear, and administrative precision to rule vast territories. Even in collapse, each civilization left behind structures and ideas that successors inherited and adapted. Religion permeated every aspect of Mesopotamian life. The gods were not distant abstractions, but active participants in human affairs. Storms, droughts, victories, and defeats were interpreted as divine messages. Ziggurats rose above cities as physical symbols of the connection between heaven and earth, anchoring urban life around sacred space. Kings ruled not merely by force, but by claiming divine mandate. Law, war, agriculture, and astronomy were all understood through a religious lens, binding cosmic order to social order. Daily life in Mesopotamia reflected both hardship and sophistication. Most people lived in mud brick houses, worked the land, raised families, and worshipped local gods. Yet even ordinary lives were shaped by systems of trade that stretched across continents, by laws that governed marriage and property, and by calendars that tracked the movements of the stars. Time itself became regulated, divided into hours and days according to mathematical principles devised by Mesopotamian scholars. The modern world still lives by measures first conceived on these ancient plains. The narrative of Mesopotamia is therefore not simply ancient history. It is foundational history. The concepts of written law, centralized authority, urban planning, long-distance trade, and recorded knowledge did not arise independently in isolation. They were forged together in response to environmental challenge and human ambition. Every later civilization, whether consciously or not, inherited something from this experiment conducted thousands of years ago between the Tigris and Euphrates. This work sets out to tell that story not as a list of inventions or rulers, but as a living narrative. It follows the rivers as they carve the land, the farmers as they tame water, the scribes as they press meaning into clay, and the kings as they attempt to impose order on a restless world. It examines how societies rose and fell, how power was justified and contested, and how ordinary people navigated lives shaped by gods, laws, and labor. By tracing Mesopotamia from its geographic origins to its imperial heights, this account reveals why the region remains central to the human story. Civilization did not emerge fully formed. It was built slowly, imperfectly, and often violently. Its earliest blueprint was drafted in mud and water under a blazing sun by people who could not have known how far their ideas would travel through time. Yet their legacy endures, embedded in the structures of modern society. To understand Mesopotamia is to understand the beginning of history itself. Before kings ruled and cities rose behind walls of brick, Mesopotamia existed as a vast and demanding landscape whose character would shape every society that emerged upon it. Geography was not a backdrop to Mesopotamian history. It was its primary architect. The land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers imposed conditions that forced human communities to innovate, cooperate, and organize on a scale previously unknown. Civilization did not appear in Mesopotamia by accident. It was coaxed into existence by water, soil, climate, and necessity. The Tigris and Euphrates rivers originate in the mountains of Anatolia and flow southward toward the Persian Gulf, carving a broad alluvial plain through what is now Iraq. Over thousands of years, these rivers deposited layers of fertile silt, creating one of the most agriculturally promising regions in the ancient world. Yet this fertility came at a price. Unlike more predictable river systems, the Tigris and Euphrates flooded erratically. Their waters could nourish fields one year and obliterate settlements the next. Floods arrived in spring, often without warning, driven by snowmelt from distant highlands. For early inhabitants, survival depended not only on understanding the rivers, but on mastering them. The earliest human presence in Mesopotamia consisted of small farming villages clustered near reliable water sources. These communities practiced simple agriculture, growing barley and wheat while domesticating sheep and goats. At first, farming relied on rainfall and seasonal floods. But as populations increased, reliance on nature alone proved insufficient. The turning point came when settlers began digging canals to divert river water onto fields. This act, seemingly simple, marked one of the most profound transformations in human history. Irrigation required planning, labor coordination, maintenance, and collective responsibility. A canal neglected by one family endangered the harvest of many. Thus, cooperation ceased to be optional. It became essential. Over time, irrigation networks expanded into complex systems of channels, levees, and reservoirs. Fields were measured, water rights negotiated, and planting schedules coordinated. The management of water demanded leadership, record-keeping, and enforcement. Authority emerged not merely from strength, but from the ability to organize labor and regulate resources. From this need arose the earliest forms of governance. Elders, priests, and administrators began to oversee communal works, setting the foundation for political institutions. As irrigation stabilized food production, agricultural surplus followed. Surplus transformed society. It allowed populations to grow beyond subsistence levels and freed segments of the population from constant food production. Craftsmen, traders, builders, and religious specialists appeared. Settlements expanded into towns, and towns into cities. By the late 4th millennium BCE, southern Mesopotamia had become one of the most densely populated regions on Earth. Urbanization altered the relationship between humans and the landscape. Cities required massive quantities of raw materials. Clay was abundant and became the primary building material, molded into sun-dried bricks for homes and fired bricks for temples and walls. Timber and stone were scarce, forcing cities to rely on long-distance trade. Geography thus turned Mesopotamia outward. Roads and river routes connected cities to distant regions, encouraging exchange and cultural contact. Trade was not a luxury. It was a necessity born of environmental limitation. The climate of Mesopotamia further shaped its societies. Summers were intensely hot and dry, while winters brought cooler temperatures and rain primarily to the north. Southern Mesopotamia relied almost entirely on irrigation, making it vulnerable to droughts, salinization, and canal failure. Over-irrigation gradually increased soil salinity, reducing crop yields and forcing farmers to switch from wheat to more salt-resistant barley. Environmental stress, therefore, was a constant companion to prosperity, influencing migration patterns and political instability. Northern Mesopotamia presented a different geography. With higher rainfall and rolling terrain, agriculture there depended less on irrigation. This distinction would later influence cultural and political differences between northern and southern regions. The north produced hardy populations accustomed to mobility and warfare, while the south cultivated administrative sophistication and religious institutions. When empires emerged, these geographic contrasts shaped their character. The unpredictability of Mesopotamia's environment also shaped its worldview. Nature was powerful, dangerous, and uncontrollable. Floods destroyed without mercy, droughts starved without warning. In response, Mesopotamian religion imagined gods who were similarly volatile. Divine favor had to be earned through ritual, obedience, and sacrifice. Human beings did not see themselves as masters of the world, but as fragile actors negotiating with overwhelming forces. This perception infused Mesopotamian literature, law, and ethics with a deep sense of vulnerability. The transition from village life to urban civilization did not occur overnight. It unfolded over centuries of experimentation, adaptation, and failure. Some settlements collapsed under environmental strain. Others relocated or merged. Successful cities learned to balance agricultural production with water management, trade, and defense. They built walls not only to repel enemies, but to demarcate order from chaos. Inside these walls, society became increasingly stratified. Outside them lay fields, canals, and the unpredictable wilderness beyond human control. By the time the first true cities emerged, Mesopotamia had already developed the core features of civilization: permanent settlements, complex economies, organized religion, and centralized authority. Geography had forced people to think collectively, to plan for the future, and to record the past. The rivers that once threatened survival had become engines of growth, binding communities together in shared dependence. Yet this dependence also carried risks. When canals failed or rivers changed course, entire cities could decline. Political power shifted as populations migrated in search of stability. Mesopotamian history is therefore marked by cycles of rise and fall, growth and collapse. Geography ensured that no society could remain dominant indefinitely. Control of water meant control of life, and that control was always fragile. The land between the rivers thus served as both cradle and crucible. It nurtured the first civilizations, but it also tested them relentlessly. Every law written, every god worshipped, every empire built in Mesopotamia bore the imprint of this landscape. Understanding Mesopotamia begins with understanding its geography, for it was the land itself that taught humanity how to organize, adapt, and endure. When the first Sumerian cities rose from the plains of southern Mesopotamia, humanity crossed a threshold from which there would be no return. These cities were not accidental accumulations of houses, nor were they temporary refuges against a hostile environment. They were deliberate creations, planned, administered, and sustained by human will. In Sumer, urban life became a permanent condition, and with it emerged the defining features of civilization: writing, law, organized religion, economic specialization, and social hierarchy. The Sumerians did not merely live in cities. They invented what it meant to be urban. The origins of the Sumerians themselves remain partially obscured by time. Their language was unlike that of their neighbors, suggesting they may have migrated into southern Mesopotamia from an unknown region. By the late 4th millennium BCE, however, they had firmly established themselves across the fertile southern plain. What distinguished them was not their ethnicity, but their response to the challenges and opportunities of the land. They transformed scattered settlements into powerful city-states, each functioning as an independent political, religious, and economic unit. Cities such as Uruk, Ur, Lagash, Nippur, and Eridu became centers of innovation and authority. Uruk, in particular, stands as one of the first true cities in world history. Its population may have exceeded 50,000 at its height, a staggering number for the ancient world. Massive walls encircled the city, symbolizing both security and identity. Within those walls lay residential districts, workshops, markets, and temple complexes, all interconnected by narrow streets and canals. Urban planning reflected a growing understanding of space, movement, and communal life. At the heart of every Sumerian city stood the temple complex, dominated by the ziggurat. These step towers were more than architectural feats. They were the spiritual axis of urban life. Each city was believed to belong to a patron god, and the ziggurat served as that god's earthly dwelling. Priests managed temple estates, organized rituals, and interpreted divine will. Religion was not a separate sphere of life. It permeated governance, economy, and culture. To serve the gods was to sustain the city itself. The temple was also an economic institution. Vast tracts of land belonged to the gods and were administered by priests. Farmers worked temple fields, craftsmen produced goods for temple use, and storehouses held surplus grain and textiles. This system required precise accounting, and it was here that writing emerged as a necessity rather than an intellectual exercise. The earliest cuneiform tablets were administrative records, lists of grain rations, livestock counts, and labor assignments. Writing evolved to meet the demands of urban complexity. Cuneiform began as pictographs, but gradually transformed into an abstract system of wedge-shaped signs impressed into clay. Scribes trained for years to master this system, and literacy became a marker of elite status. Through writing, the Sumerians extended memory beyond the human lifespan. Contracts could be enforced, debts tracked, and laws preserved. Over time, writing expanded beyond administration into literature, hymns, prayers, and royal inscriptions. The written word became a tool of power, binding people to institutions and rulers through recorded obligation. Political authority in Sumerian cities rested with kings known as Lugal, though earlier rulers were often priest-kings who governed in the name of the gods. Kingship was justified as a divine appointment, but it was also contingent on success. A king who failed to protect the city, maintain irrigation, or appease the gods risked removal. Governance involved overseeing public works, leading armies, and dispensing justice. City-states frequently competed with one another for land, water, and trade routes, leading to near-constant warfare. Despite this competition, Sumerian cities shared a common culture. They worshipped similar gods, used the same writing system, and followed comparable legal traditions. This shared identity allowed ideas and technologies to spread rapidly. Innovations such as the wheel, the plow, and standardized weights and measures transformed daily life. The wheel, first used for pottery, increased production efficiency and later revolutionized transport. The plow allowed farmers to cultivate larger areas with less labor, supporting urban growth. Social structure in Sumer was rigidly hierarchical. At the top stood the king and priesthood, followed by nobles and administrators. Below them were merchants, artisans, and farmers, who formed the backbone of the economy. At the bottom were enslaved individuals, often prisoners of war or debtors. Laws applied differently depending on social status, reinforcing inequality as a structural feature of society. Yet, even within this hierarchy, social mobility was not entirely impossible. A successful merchant or skilled scribe could rise in status, particularly if they gained the favor of powerful institutions. Daily life for most Sumerians revolved around work, family, and religious obligation. Houses were built from mud brick, clustered tightly together, with flat roofs used for sleeping during hot nights. Families were patriarchal, though women retained certain legal rights, including property ownership and participation in trade. Marriage was both a personal and economic arrangement, formalized through contracts. Children were expected to contribute to household labor, and education was reserved primarily for those destined to become scribes. Trade connected Sumerian cities to distant lands. Lacking timber, stone, and metals, they exchanged surplus grain and textiles for raw materials from Anatolia, the Levant, and beyond. Merchants traveled by river and caravan, navigating both natural hazards and political boundaries. Trade fostered cultural exchange and exposed Sumerians to new ideas and technologies, further enriching their civilization. Sumerian religion reflected the uncertainties of their world. The gods were powerful but unpredictable, capable of great generosity or devastating wrath. Humans existed to serve the gods, maintaining temples and performing rituals to secure divine favor. There was little expectation of reward in the afterlife. Existence beyond death was shadowy and bleak. This belief system reinforced a focus on life in the present world, encouraging people to seek prosperity, honor, and legacy through earthly achievement. Sumerian literature reveals a society deeply engaged with questions of meaning and mortality. The Epic of Gilgamesh, centered on a legendary king of Uruk, explores friendship, power, and the inevitability of death. Through this narrative, the Sumerians confronted the limits of human ambition. Even the greatest king could not escape mortality, but he could achieve lasting fame through his deeds. This tension between human aspiration and cosmic limitation lies at the heart of Mesopotamian thought. By the end of the 3rd millennium BCE, Sumerian dominance began to wane. Environmental strain, internal conflict, and external pressures weakened city-states. Yet their legacy endured. Later civilizations would adopt Sumerian writing, religion, and administrative practices. The Sumerians had built the template of civilization itself. And though their cities would fall, their ideas would outlive them. The Sumerian experiment demonstrated that human beings could organize themselves into complex, enduring societies capable of shaping history. In inventing urban life, the Sumerians set humanity on a path that continues to define the modern world. Civilization, once born, could not be undone. The city-states of Sumer had proven that civilization could flourish, but they had also revealed its limitations. Independent cities, bound by shared culture yet divided by ambition, existed in a constant state of rivalry. Water rights, trade routes, fertile land, and divine favor were endlessly contested. Warfare was frequent, alliances fragile, and stability elusive. Out of this fractured political landscape emerged a figure who would redefine power itself. His name was Sargon of Akkad, and through him, humanity witnessed the birth of empire. Sargon's rise was unprecedented, not merely because of the territory he conquered, but because of the concept he introduced. Before Sargon, power was local. Kings ruled cities. Influence rarely extended far beyond walls and canals. Sargon imagined something different, a centralized authority that transcended city identity, binding diverse peoples under a single ruler. In doing so, he created the world's first known empire and set a model that conquerors would emulate for millennia. The origins of Sargon are wrapped in legend, reflecting the extraordinary nature of his ascent. Later texts describe him as a foundling, set adrift in a basket on a river and raised by a gardener. Whether myth or political propaganda, this story served to emphasize divine favor and destiny. What is certain is that Sargon began his career as a cupbearer to the king of Kish, a position that offered proximity to power and insight into governance. From this vantage point, Sargon learned how authority functioned and where it was vulnerable. When Sargon seized power, he did so with decisive force. He overthrew established rulers and rapidly expanded his control across southern Mesopotamia. One by one, the great Sumerian cities fell under his authority. Unlike earlier conquerors who ruled temporarily through intimidation, Sargon implemented a new strategy. He installed loyal governors in conquered cities, maintained local administrative systems, and demanded tribute rather than destruction. This approach allowed cities to continue functioning while serving the interests of the empire. Sargon's conquests extended far beyond Sumer. His armies marched north into Akkad, west toward the Mediterranean, and east toward the Zagros Mountains. In inscriptions, he boasted of washing his weapons in the sea, a symbolic declaration of total domination. While such claims may have been exaggerated, archaeological evidence confirms that Akkadian influence stretched across vast distances. For the first time, multiple regions with distinct traditions were governed as parts of a single political entity. The Akkadian Empire required a new administrative logic. Governing distant territories demanded communication, logistics, and standardization. Akkadian, a Semitic language, became the language of administration, written using the cuneiform system inherited from the Sumerians. This linguistic fusion marked a cultural turning point. Rather than erasing Sumerian traditions, the Akkadians absorbed them. Sumerian religious practices, literature, and legal customs continued, now framed within an imperial structure. Religion played a critical role in legitimizing Akkadian rule. Sargon and his successors portrayed themselves as chosen by the gods, particularly the goddess Inanni, associated with war, fertility, and political power. Temples remained central institutions, but their loyalty was redirected toward imperial authority. The gods of conquered cities were incorporated into a broader pantheon, reinforcing the idea that empire reflected cosmic order. The Akkadian army was the instrument through which empire was forged and maintained. Soldiers were equipped with bronze weapons and organized into disciplined units. Campaigns were brutal by necessity, but they were also strategic. Roads were secured, supply lines maintained, and rebellious cities punished as warnings to others. Warfare became an extension of governance, a tool to enforce unity in a world unused to centralized power. Despite its strength, the Akkadian Empire faced immense challenges. Distance strained communication, revolts flared, and environmental pressures intensified. Droughts reduced agricultural output, undermining the economic foundation of imperial authority. After Sargon's death, his successors struggled to maintain cohesion. Though his grandson Naram-Sin attempted to strengthen control by declaring himself divine, resistance mounted. Eventually, internal rebellion combined with external invasion led to the empire's collapse. Yet the fall of Akkad did not erase its impact. The idea of empire had taken root. Sargon had demonstrated that large-scale political unification was possible, and future rulers would draw inspiration from his example. Babylonian and Assyrian kings would explicitly reference Sargon as a model conqueror. The imperial vision he introduced reshaped Mesopotamian political imagination. Culturally, the Akkadian period marked a synthesis of traditions. Art became more naturalistic, emphasizing realism and power. Literature expanded, preserving Sumerian myths while adapting them to new audiences. Administration grew more sophisticated, laying groundwork for later bureaucratic states. Even in collapse, the Akkadian Empire transmitted knowledge, techniques, and ideals to its successors. Sargon of Akkad stands as one of history's pivotal figures, not because his empire endured, but because it changed what humans believed was possible. He transformed conquest into governance and cities into provinces. The empire he created was fragile, but the concept was indestructible. From this moment forward, the political world would be shaped by the tension between local identity and centralized power. The Akkadian world marked a turning point in human history. Civilization had moved beyond the city-state. The question was no longer whether societies could organize themselves, but how far that organization could extend. In answering that question, Sargon set humanity on a path toward empire, a path that would define the ancient world. As the Akkadian Empire faded into memory, a new power emerged in the heart of Mesopotamia, destined to reshape the ideals of justice, governance, and social order. Babylon, once a modest city-state, grew into a formidable kingdom under the leadership of Hammurabi, a ruler whose reign would be remembered not for conquest alone, but for the codification of laws that sought to bind society in a shared framework of rights and responsibilities. The Babylonian age was an era when law became the instrument of civilization's coherence, laying foundations that echo through time. Hammurabi ascended to the throne of Babylon around 1792 BCE. He inherited a city that, while politically significant, was surrounded by powerful rivals: Assyria to the north, Elam to the east, and various city-states still clinging to autonomy. Rather than relying solely on military force, Hammurabi envisioned a kingdom united not just by conquest, but by law and order. His greatest legacy is the eponymous Code of Hammurabi, one of the earliest and most complete legal codes ever discovered. The code was inscribed on a towering stone stele, its upper portion crowned by a relief showing Hammurabi receiving laws directly from Shamash, the sun god and god of justice. This image was more than symbolic. It declared that the king's authority to legislate was divinely sanctioned. Laws were not arbitrary commands, but reflections of cosmic order, designed to ensure fairness and social harmony. By linking law to divine will, Hammurabi elevated governance to a sacred responsibility. The code itself is a complex body of nearly 300 laws, covering a vast array of social, economic, and family matters. It regulated property rights, trade, marriage, inheritance, labor, and crime. Punishments varied by offense and social status, revealing a stratified society in which the wealthy and powerful were treated differently than slaves or commoners. The principle of an eye for an eye is often associated with Hammurabi's code, but it was applied selectively and with nuance. The laws served multiple functions. They established clear expectations, reducing disputes, and providing a legal framework to resolve conflicts. This clarity was essential in a society experiencing rapid urbanization, economic diversification, and cultural complexity. Hammurabi's code also reinforced the king's role as the ultimate arbiter, centralizing authority and discouraging local arbitrariness. By making laws public, the code promoted transparency and accountability. Though in practice, access to justice likely remained uneven. Beyond the legal text, Hammurabi's reign was marked by effective administration and military campaigns that expanded Babylon's influence across Mesopotamia. His success depended not only on force, but on diplomacy, alliances, and the strategic integration of diverse peoples. Under his rule, Babylon transformed from a regional city-state into a thriving imperial capital, a center of culture, learning, and religious devotion. The social structure of Babylon under Hammurabi was complex and hierarchical. At the apex stood the king, who embodied divine authority and earthly power. Beneath him were priests, nobles, and officials who administered the state and temples. Merchants and artisans formed a prosperous middle class, while farmers worked the land under various forms of tenancy. Slaves, often prisoners of war or indebted individuals, constituted the lowest social tier, but were an integral part of the economy. Gender roles were defined yet variable. Women could own property, engage in business, and initiate divorce. But their rights were circumscribed by law and custom. Marriage contracts detailed responsibilities and protections, reflecting the importance of family as a social unit. Children inherited social status and education, primarily accessible to boys of elite families, emphasized literacy, mathematics, and law. Babylonian religion was a continuation and expansion of Sumerian and Akkadian traditions. Marduk, Babylon's patron god, rose in prominence to become the supreme deity of the pantheon. The city's great temple, the Isagila, and its towering ziggurat symbolized the divine foundation of political power. Religious festivals, rituals, and temple activities permeated daily life, reinforcing the connection between gods, king, and people. Intellectual achievements flourished alongside political and legal developments. Babylonian scholars advanced astronomy, mathematics, and medicine. They meticulously recorded celestial movements, enabling them to predict lunar and solar eclipses, track planetary cycles, and develop sophisticated calendars. The sexagesimal, base 60 number system, inherited from Sumer, became the basis for measuring time and angles. Legacy elements that persist in modern clocks and geometry. Architecturally, Babylon became renowned for its monumental constructions. Its massive walls, described by later historians as among the wonders of the ancient world, encircled a city bustling with markets, palaces, temples, and homes. Roads connected the city to far-reaching trade networks, facilitating the exchange of goods, ideas, and culture. Daily life in Babylon reflected the diversity and complexity of an imperial capital. Artisans crafted jewelry, textiles, pottery, and metalwork. Merchants traded with distant regions, bringing lapis lazuli from Afghanistan, cedar from Lebanon, and copper from Anatolia. Markets thrived, and specialized professions, from scribes to builders, formed a vibrant social fabric. Education for scribes remained central to administration and culture, preserving knowledge and enabling governance. Yet beneath this apparent order lurked the challenges of empire. Maintaining control over diverse peoples required constant vigilance. Rebellions flared, factions vied for influence, and external enemies threatened stability. Hammurabi's successors struggled to replicate his authority. And over time, Babylon's power waxed and waned. Nonetheless, the age of Hammurabi stands as a defining chapter in Mesopotamian history. The code he promulgated was not the first legal system, but it was the most comprehensive and influential, shaping the conception of law as a public, enforceable institution. It transformed social relations by imposing order on a world of competing interests and shifting alliances. Babylon's legacy lies not only in its monuments or conquests, but in its articulation of the social contract, an understanding that civilization depends on laws, justice, and governance, grounded in both human needs and divine sanction. Through Hammurabi, Mesopotamia bequeathed to future generations a vision of society where law and leadership intertwine, where justice is a public good, and where the ruler bears responsibility not only for power, but for fairness. This vision would resonate through the ages, influencing legal traditions across the ancient Near East and beyond. The principles articulated in Babylonian law, imperfect as they were, laid the groundwork for the rule of law as a cornerstone of organized society. Mesopotamia's contribution to legal history remains one of its most enduring gifts to the modern world. Following the twilight of Babylon's golden age, a new power rose in the northern reaches of Mesopotamia, the Assyrians. Known for their relentless military prowess and sophisticated administration, the Assyrians transformed the idea of empire from a fragile coalition of city-states into a formidable, highly organized machine of conquest and control. Their empire would stretch from the Mediterranean shores to the Iranian plateau, encompassing diverse peoples and cultures under a centralized, often ruthless, authority. The Assyrian heartland lay along the upper Tigris River, in a region marked by rugged hills and strategic river crossings. This geography fostered a culture of resilience and militarism. Early Assyrian kings focused on defending their territory against neighboring threats, but from the early 2nd millennium BCE onward, the kingdom evolved into an aggressive, expansionist power. By the reign of Tiglath-Pileser I, circa 1115 to 1077 BCE, Pekan, Assyria had established a reputation as an unyielding military force. What set the Assyrians apart was their unprecedented use of technology, organization, and psychological warfare. Their armies employed iron weapons, including swords, spears, and axes, at a time when many adversaries still relied on bronze. Assyrian engineers developed advanced siege techniques, constructing battering rams, siege towers, and scaling ladders that allowed them to breach fortified cities that had seemed impregnable. The Assyrian military was not merely a collection of warriors, but a highly disciplined and bureaucratically managed institution. Soldiers were organized into units with clear hierarchies and specialized roles. Cavalry, charioteers, archers, and infantry coordinated complex campaigns with logistical support, ensuring steady supplies of food, weapons, and reinforcements. Campaigns were carefully planned, with intelligence gathered on enemy strengths and weaknesses. The Assyrians also perfected psychological warfare, using terror as a strategic weapon. They documented their victories in graphic reliefs showing the brutal consequences of resistance. Captured enemies impaled or flayed alive, cities razed, and populations deported. These images and accounts served as warnings to others, instilling fear that often prevented rebellion and resistance. This fearsome reputation was an integral part of their governance. Administration was equally important to Assyrian power. The empire was divided into provinces governed by appointed officials who reported directly to the king. Provincial governors were responsible for tax collection, maintaining order, and implementing imperial decrees. A sophisticated system of messengers and roads enabled communication between the capital and outlying regions. Assyrian kings were absolute rulers, but relied heavily on a vast bureaucracy to maintain control over their territories. One of the most famous Assyrian kings, Ashurbanipal, reigned 668 to 627 BCE, exemplified the dual nature of Assyrian rule, both warrior and scholar. He expanded the empire to its greatest territorial extent and established a magnificent library in the capital city of Nineveh. The library of Ashurbanipal preserved thousands of clay tablets covering literature, science, religion, and administration. It stands as one of the earliest attempts to collect and systematize knowledge on an imperial scale. Religion in Assyria maintained the traditional Mesopotamian polytheistic framework, though the god Ashur became the national deity, symbolizing the empire's divine mandate. The king was seen as Ashur's earthly representative, tasked with expanding his will across the known world. Temples and ziggurats remained vital centers of religious life, but state religion was inseparable from political ideology. Assyrian society was highly stratified. At the top stood the king, nobles, and military elite. Beneath them were artisans, merchants, farmers, and laborers. Slavery was widespread, with captives from conquered territories often enslaved or deported. Deportation policies served multiple purposes: breaking potential centers of rebellion, repopulating strategic areas with loyal subjects, and dispersing ethnic groups to weaken resistance. Daily life under Assyrian rule was shaped by the demands of empire and the militarized nature of society. Urban centers like Nineveh and Ashur were bustling hubs of trade, administration, and culture. Markets offered goods from across the empire and beyond: ivory from Africa, cedar from Lebanon, and lapis lazuli from Afghanistan. Craftsmanship flourished, particularly in metalwork, textiles, and sculpture. Despite the empire's power, the Assyrians faced constant challenges. Rebellions, both internal and external, tested their ability to maintain control. Rival powers, including the Babylonians and Medes, eventually weakened Assyrian dominance. In 612 BCE, a coalition of enemies captured and destroyed Nineveh, bringing the Assyrian Empire to an end. Nevertheless, the Assyrian legacy endured. Their innovations in military organization, administration, and infrastructure set new standards for empire building. The image of a centralized, bureaucratic state wielding overwhelming military force influenced successive empires across the ancient Near East and beyond. The Assyrians demonstrated the terrifying effectiveness of combining ideology, technology, and governance into a unified system of control. In cultural terms, the preservation of knowledge through institutions like Ashurbanipal's library ensured that Mesopotamian literature, science, and history survived to inform later civilizations. The brutal methods of Assyrian conquest were tempered by sophisticated artistic and literary achievements, revealing a civilization capable of both destruction and creation. The Assyrian Empire, with its machinery of power, stands as a testament to the complexities of empire building in the ancient world. It was an empire of paradox, ruthless yet cultured, centralized yet diverse, feared yet respected. Through their military innovations and administrative genius, the Assyrians expanded the possibilities of political organization, leaving a profound mark on the history of civilization. Throughout the long and tumultuous history of Mesopotamia, one thread remained constant: the profound and pervasive influence of religion on every facet of life. To understand the people of Mesopotamia, their ambitions, fears, laws, and daily routines, it is essential to understand how they conceived of the world and their place within it. Their polytheistic faith, intertwined with politics, economy, and culture, shaped not only their understanding of the cosmos, but also their social structures, architecture, and everyday practices. The gods of Mesopotamia were numerous and complex, embodying natural forces, human emotions, and societal functions. Unlike later monotheistic faiths, Mesopotamian religion was not centered on a single, all-powerful deity, but on a pantheon of gods and goddesses, each with distinct personalities, domains, and relationships. The major deities, Anu, Enlil, Enki, Inanna, Ishtar, Marduk, and Ashur, among others, were viewed as active agents influencing the fate of individuals, cities, and empires. The Mesopotamians believed that the gods created humanity to serve them by maintaining the cosmic order through rituals, offerings, and obedience. Human existence was a constant negotiation with divine will. Success in agriculture, victory in battle, and personal prosperity were all contingent on pleasing the gods. Conversely, natural disasters, plagues, or military defeats were interpreted as signs of divine displeasure. This worldview fostered a sense of humility and responsibility, compelling rulers and citizens alike to maintain religious observance. The ziggurat epitomized the fusion of religion and urban life. These massive step towers dominated city skylines, symbolizing the connection between earth and heaven. Built of mud bricks and often crowned by temples or shrines, ziggurats served as the earthly homes of patron gods. The highest point was reserved for the deity's presence, accessible only to priests and royalty. Their imposing size and architectural grandeur underscored the power of the divine and the city's dedication to sustaining that power. Temples were not only religious centers, but economic and political hubs. They controlled vast tracts of land, employed thousands of workers, and managed large storerooms of goods. Priests held considerable influence, acting as intermediaries between gods and people. They performed rituals, interpreted omens, and advised rulers. The maintenance of divine favor was seen as essential to the welfare of the city and empire, making temples vital to social stability. The social hierarchy of Mesopotamia was deeply influenced by religious and legal norms. At the summit stood the king, often described as chosen by the gods or even semi-divine. His primary role was to enforce justice, maintain order, and protect the city from chaos. Beneath him were the priests and nobles, who wielded power through land ownership, temple administration, and military command. Merchants, artisans, and farmers formed the middle tiers, sustaining the economy and culture. At the base of the hierarchy were slaves and laborers, whose work underpinned the entire system. Gender roles were defined but complex. Men dominated political and religious offices, while women's roles centered on family, household management, and economic participation. Women could own property, operate businesses, and participate in religious life as priestesses. Marriage was a contractual arrangement with social and economic implications, often involving dowries and legal obligations. Family was the fundamental social unit, and inheritance laws ensured the transmission of property and status. Slavery in Mesopotamia was both a consequence of war and debt. Enslaved individuals worked in households, temples, and large-scale agriculture. While lacking freedom, some slaves could own property or even buy their freedom, indicating a degree of social mobility. Slavery was embedded in the legal codes and reflected the realities of conquest and economic dependency. Daily life varied depending on social status, but shared common rhythms shaped by agriculture, trade, and religion. Most people lived in simple mud brick houses clustered in neighborhoods. Roofs served as additional living space, especially during hot months, for sleeping, socializing, and household chores. Water was drawn from wells or canals, and cooking was done over open hearths. Clothing was made from wool and flax, woven into garments suited to the climate. Work defined daily existence. Farmers tended barley, wheat, dates, and livestock, reliant on irrigation canals. Artisans produced pottery, metal tools, textiles, and jewelry. Traders navigated river routes and desert caravans, connecting Mesopotamia to distant regions. The market was a vital social space where goods, news, and ideas were exchanged. Specialized professions, scribes, priests, and officials, held prestigious positions due to their literacy and knowledge. Education was primarily reserved for boys destined for bureaucratic or priestly careers. Scribes underwent rigorous training in cuneiform writing, mathematics, and law. Literacy was a powerful tool that enabled participation in administration and culture. Literature, poetry, and hymns were composed and preserved by scribes, contributing to a rich cultural heritage. Astronomy and timekeeping were central to Mesopotamian intellectual life. The movements of the sun, moon, and planets were carefully observed and recorded. Mesopotamians developed a calendar based on lunar cycles and devised methods to predict eclipses and seasons. Time was divided into units we still use today: hours, minutes, and seconds, rooted in their base 60 numeral system. The arts flourished in Mesopotamia, with skilled artisans producing intricate jewelry, cylinder seals, sculptures, and wall reliefs. These works often depicted religious scenes, royal achievements, or mythological narratives, serving both aesthetic and propagandistic functions. Despite the grandeur of cities and temples, life was often precarious. Floods, droughts, famine, and warfare were constant threats. Disease and mortality rates were high. Mesopotamians sought to understand these hardships through myth and ritual, attempting to secure divine protection. Burial practices reflected beliefs about the afterlife, generally a shadowy existence in the netherworld, emphasizing the importance of legacy and remembrance. In sum, the social and religious fabric of Mesopotamia was tightly woven, each thread reinforcing the other. Religion legitimized authority and provided meaning. Social structures maintained order and productivity. Daily practices sustained communities amid uncertainty. Together, these elements created a civilization capable of enduring thousands of years, influencing countless societies thereafter. Mesopotamia's story is the story of humanity's earliest steps toward organized society, culture, and statecraft. The land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers gave birth to the first cities, the first laws, and the first written records, setting the stage for the development of civilization as we know it. Its achievements laid the foundation for future empires, inspired intellectual inquiry, and influenced countless cultures across millennia. The term "cradle of civilization" aptly describes Mesopotamia's role in human history. Here, the pressures of geography, the unpredictability of the rivers, the challenges of the environment, compelled people to invent new forms of cooperation, governance, and technology. They forged canals, devised irrigation systems, and mastered agriculture to sustain large populations. In response to the complexities of urban life, they created writing, enabling the recording of transactions, laws, stories, and knowledge. The cuneiform script, initially a practical tool for accounting, became a medium for literature, science, and history. Mesopotamian civilization was marked by remarkable innovations that continue to resonate today. The wheel, invented here, revolutionized transport and production. The 360-degree circle and base 60 numeral system underpin modern geometry and timekeeping. The codification of laws by Hammurabi established principles of justice that echo in contemporary legal systems. Advances in astronomy allowed the tracking of celestial movements, influencing calendars and navigation. The succession of great civilizations, the Sumerians, Akkadians, Babylonians, and Assyrians, demonstrates the dynamic and evolving nature of Mesopotamian culture. Each contributed uniquely to the political, cultural, and technological heritage of the region. Sargon of Akkad introduced the concept of empire, uniting diverse peoples under centralized authority. Hammurabi articulated a vision of law and order that bound society together. The Assyrians expanded the scale of empire building, combining military innovation with administrative sophistication. Religion permeated all aspects of life, shaping worldviews and social order. The construction of ziggurats symbolized the connection between heaven and earth, and temples functioned as centers of economic and political power. Polytheism, with its rich pantheon of gods and myths, provided explanations for natural phenomena and human fate, encouraging a worldview grounded in humility and ritual. Daily life in Mesopotamia was both ordinary and extraordinary. People labored in fields, workshops, and markets, bound by social roles and legal codes. Families navigated complex social customs, while education and literacy offered paths to status and influence. Despite the hardships of environment and conflict, Mesopotamian societies created enduring cultural expressions, art, literature, music, that reveal a deep engagement with questions of meaning, mortality, and human aspiration. Mesopotamia's contributions extend far beyond its own time. The ideas and systems developed here influenced the ancient Near East and later civilizations across the Mediterranean and beyond. Concepts of kingship, law, writing, and urban organization were adapted and transformed by cultures ranging from the Hittites to the Greeks and Romans. The legacy of Mesopotamia is embedded in the structures of modern governance, law, science, and culture. Yet Mesopotamia also teaches about the fragility of civilization. Its history is marked by cycles of growth and decline, shaped by environmental challenges, internal strife, and external invasions. Cities rose and fell, empires expanded and crumbled, reminding us that human achievement is never guaranteed, but must be continuously renewed through adaptation and resilience. Today, the ruins of ancient Mesopotamia lie beneath modern cities and deserts, silent witnesses to a world that shaped ours. Archaeological discoveries, clay tablets, and monumental architecture offer glimpses into lives lived thousands of years ago. Lives marked by creativity, ambition, faith, and struggle. The stories of Mesopotamia are the earliest chapters in the grand narrative of civilization, a testament to humanity's enduring quest to understand, organize, and transform the world. In remembering Mesopotamia, one recognizes not only the origins of urban life and empire, but also the universal human themes of power, justice, belief, and community. It stands as a timeless reminder that civilization is a collective achievement, built on the foundations laid by those who came before us and entrusted to those who follow. Thank you for exploring the incredible story of ancient Mesopotamia with us. From the rise of the first cities along the Tigris and Euphrates to the groundbreaking inventions, powerful empires, and lasting legacies, Mesopotamia truly earned its title as the cradle of civilization. If you enjoyed this deep dive into history, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss future videos. Share your thoughts or questions in the comments below. We love hearing from you. Until next time, keep discovering the past to better understand our world today.